What do you get when you mix baseball and football?
Base footballs?
No. This is Bunts and Bruises. If it's the weekly hot topics in sports, we're talking about it.
We're talking about it.
And we're having fun. Your home for sports and entertainment. We're the best at rolling with the punches. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This is Bunts and Bruises. And here's your host, Bars.
My, oh my, Jacob, I ain't even going to say my usual hi. We just got to get right into it. It is crazy. I thought it was crazy. Of course, in typical, you know what? First, before we even jump right into it, we got an exciting episode going on. It's not just us two knuckleheads. We brought the third knucklehead as well. Without further ado, Iceman, welcome back to the show. We haven't had you in quite some time. It just feels right that, amidst all this chaos, we have a sports agent of chaos here in the area right now. How you been, bud?
I've been good. Adjusting to new schedule life at work, which has also resulted in me not being able to hop on as much as I want to, which sucks for me personally because I love hopping on with you guys and getting to talk. But hey, I'm here, and that's all that matters. And what a perfect day here, boys, because you said it yourself, James. I'm not going to filibuster any further. Today was crazy. Broke some news to you boys today. That's how big today was.
Oh, man. It caught me off guard. I thought we had a nice episode all lined up, and then boom, reality hits, and it just got all blown up. Much like what we're about to talk. Without further ado, that breaking news is Joe Maddon of the Anaheim Angels has been relieved of his duties. I find this kind of crazy because, like I was just saying, in typical Bunts and Bruises fashion, our last episode, me and Jake were talking about buyers, sellers, who should trade, and the Phillies were one of them. I mentioned Joe Giradi. Is he going soon? Because if he goes soon, they're going to very well become buyers. Sellers. Jake was saying they were buyers. Very hour, maybe next morning. Boom, Joe Giradi, gone. Typical Bunts and Bruises fashion where all the big news happens the moment we record. And now today, it actually lined up beautifully because with the firing of Joe Maddon, we were about to talk about the Anaheim Angels 12-game losing streak. And now with this, it's just, man, I don't even know where to start, boys. So, Jake, let me ask you first. Do you think this was the right move? Is Joe Maddon the reason why the Angels are in this skid? Or is there something much larger here we should be looking at?
I think there's something a lot larger than just Joe Maddon. I think Joe Maddon is being kind of used as a scapegoat. And that's why I think general managers, like we were talking about a little earlier, general managers are they're the ones sculpting, they're the architects of this team, and then they're relying on somebody to run it. Unfortunately, they're not meeting expectations, and they're using these managers as scapegoats to show that they didn't construct a team properly. Now, when you look at it, the Angels are a mediocre team. They're 15th in batting average, 15th in OBP, 10th in slugging, 14th in OPS hitting wise. Fielding, they're 18th in fielding percentage, 12th in errors. Pitching, they're 18th in ERA. They've given up the 5th most home runs in the league. And over this last, they're 3 in the last 19, you know what I mean? Or 3 of their last 16, whatever it is. They've gone on a 12-game losing streak. I don't think this is just Joe Maddon. I don't think you're going to bring in the next skipper and all these magical problems you have are going to be solved. It's not going to happen. They're still very reliant on Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani at the top there, and they haven't been performing over these last 2 weeks.
So with all that said, let me ask you, Joe Maddon was brought in 2019, and since then he has had every single season has been under 500. Yes, he is a multiple World Series, right? Maybe just the one World Series winning coach, manager. My question here is, may it be past his time, man? Because Jerk, we've seen it happen before. He's left from the Chicago Cubs. Yes, they were going through their own kind of rebuild, but there was still talent on that team. And here we are now, 3 years into his Anaheim visit, and it's looking the same. Is he kind of almost past his time, Because with baseball, that doesn't happen too often, but could this be the kind of situation right now?
You could argue it, So here's my thing with Madden, and him being part of that Chicago Cubs team, as you mentioned, them winning the World Series, bringing the World Series, the hunk of metal, quote unquote, according to the commissioner himself, for the very first time in over a century. The thing with Madden was when he was in Chicago, he was viewed as one of the guys that really knows about the game. That despite he's on the older side in terms of what a manager is, he's really more fine in tune with it. So for me to think of that, and it's been 6 years ever since, like that feels like both a long time and like not like I don't want to say that he's lost touch with baseball in just a 6 year stretch. I mean, who knows? Joe Maddon's probably forgotten more about baseball than most of us will ever know in our lifetimes. But at the same time, I don't want to think it's him not necessarily understanding today's game. I don't think it's that. I just think he just lost the magic that this team was going on. We've been talking about it. I on other shows have talked about the fact that the Angels, this is the best that they'd looked in a season for so long. Probably was looking on pace to be the best season since Mike Trout got there. And the fact that it has seemingly collapsed within on itself so quickly is crazy. I don't think I could just put all that on Joe Maddon, though. I don't think that's fair to him. I think there are other mitigating circumstances. During this losing streak, Mike Trout has hit he's gone 4 for 42 on hits to at bats. That's less
He
than
just got
10%.
his first hit yesterday, and
Yeah,
I
he's
think he was
one
over
of his last.
23.
Yeah, one of his last 23.
So it's like him underperforming. Shohei Ohtani, like he's still been good this season, but he doesn't feel like he's been the same MVP like he was last season. This team is underperforming, and that's been a case for a long time. I get that they want to try to say it's on him, but it's also just a roster fit question is what I really need to wonder. And I think we've been wondering this for several years now. Like, can this Angels team put it all together? It just feels like more seasons than not, they're just pieces like thrown against the wall, and it's like, let's see if it sticks together. Like that's not how you build a team.
See, I'm somewhere between the middle of the two of you guys because, yes, I agree 100%. He's more looking like a scapegoat right now than it's actually his fault. But then I kind of lean towards that. Show me what you've done recently for me. Like, yeah, he's a great coach, but since he's been with the Halos, he's gone 103 and 148. That's his record since 2020. So it's not looking too hot. His managerial record is coming closer and closer to 500. So maybe it is past his time. But at the same time, your guys are both right. This team hasn't been constructed correctly. Me and Jake were addressing that in our last episode during the trade talks. We said they should be buyers because you could see it with all these injuries. Anthony Rendon's on the 10-day IL still. Taylor Ward's on the 10-day IL still. And David Fletcher, he's still gone for the whole season. And you haven't really had Joe Adell develop the way you really wanted to because he was supposed to be a rising star about 2 years ago. You gave him the extra year to kind of figure it out. This year was supposed to be the year, and he hasn't been there yet. So all that put together is this team is very reliant on his top heavy. And when you don't have your, like you guys been saying, when you don't have your top performers, a Michael Trout in this slump or a Shohei Ohtani, who he's dominant, you got to really question, is he going to finally decide to just stay on one side of the ball at some point to focus more? Because yes, he's a Hall of Famer in my eyes at this moment. If he could keep it up for like another 2-3 years, what he's doing, just for the fact that he's doing it. But if he could focus on just one of those positions, he's going to go down a Hall of Famer. And just imagine the numbers. He's already a good, really good pitcher and a really, really good hitter. If he focused on pitching, he'd be a Cy Young Award winner. If he focused on hitting, he could be God knows what, maybe the next 3,000 hitter for all we know. So there's talent on this team, which is why I'm thinking, yeah, you do kind of got to blame Joe Maddon because let me ask you guys a question. Call me a conspiracy theorist or anything. But so Phil Nevin now. Phil Nevin. Jerk. Hit me with
Nevin.
the name. Thank you. Phil Nevin, you guys know I'm not good with names. So Phil Nevin got signed as the third baseman coach. Everyone knows he is one of the best third base coaches in the entire league. Highly regarded in the Yankees organization the 4 years he was there. And I believe it was the Giants before that. So two of the best organizations in the league. He got signed as third base coach here. What if, because this was the last year of Joe Maddon's guaranteed contract, what if they brought him over here for this exact situation where if he didn't have a good year this year, Joe Maddon, you're out. Phil, you're the automatic replacement. Here you go. But with this kid, they say, hey, let's just pull the trigger early and see if we could save this season. Because with the expanded playoffs, the Angels are now, I believe, 1.5 games behind from that last spot to get into the playoffs. Jake, do you think this is a crazy theory, or you think I got something here?
I don't believe it's Joe Maddon's fault. That man's a competent GM. He's a competent coach, and he's proved it his whole career. I do believe this is the kind of the front office's fault. How they constructed this roster outside of their top-heavy Mike Trout and Ohtani. People say it's underperforming. I think they're overperforming all year. Taylor Ward was never this good and has considerably will never be this good ever again. He's going to decline just like he has. Brandon Marsh isn't very good. Who else have they tried to bring in beside Anthony Rendon, who's been a bust? Syndergaard, who's been mediocre over his last couple of games and average at best this season. Who else this year? Who else have they brought in, honestly, to make a difference? They brought in Ohtani. I guess you have two of the greatest generational talents of this time, but you aren't using them properly. Their bullpen is one of the worst in baseball, 23rd in ERA. They've allowed the 28th most home runs, or 30. They have 30 home runs allowed in their bullpen. They're blowing games late in the game. This just isn't a good team outside of Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani.
You're too reasonable. You're too reasonable. You're no fun. Jerk. What do you think about my conspiracy theory? Am I crazy? Or are you guys actually being reasonable and I'm just crazy?
Hey, I'm all for conspiracy theories. I love conspiracy theories when they more go to the fun and not so serious aspects of life, for the most part. And I mean, maybe, who knows? I think this is kind of something that you can almost consider when it comes to other sports. I think maybe the NBA has been accused of this in like a couple previous circumstances where like an assistant coach was hired to a coaching staff, and it's like it's kind of clear that the head coach is on the outs. So I can maybe see it. I mean, I think just the Angels overall, it's not a surprise. I mean, obviously, with a midseason change, you stay with a guy within the organization. But this is something I've seen in hockey as a common occurrence all the time. Like a team fires its head coach, they get the new guy, and they just play better. It's really weird how there is a substantive sample size of situations where this actually works out. I'm wearing the shirt of a team that did that this season and made the Western Conference Finals in its sport while doing this. So maybe it's going to work out for the Angels at the end of the day. In terms of your theory, I definitely agree with you that I think the organization was definitely looking to move on from Maddon had they underperformed. And I just think they see the good start. It's like, okay, maybe reevaluate. Because let's be real here. Like you said, Phil Nevin has been one of the most highly regarded third baseman coach for a long time. Without question, a guy that he was going to start getting interviewed after this season, most likely for a managerial position had it opened up. And I think the Angels just saw this as an opportunity to be like, let's just keep this guy in the organization and let's make him the skipper now. So I definitely could think that idea formed while this was happening. I don't know if maybe it was at like when they hired him in the offseason bars, then maybe that's a little, 4D chess that I think you're assuming. And I'm not going to give the Angels that kind of, IQ level. But I definitely think that idea is definitely became real over the last couple of weeks, and we just saw that solidified today.
Yeah, I mean, he has interviewed for that top spot. He just hasn't, for whatever it may be, teams haven't done it. Maybe smarter teams know why they haven't done it, and the Angels being the Angels, that's why they're doing it. Who knows? You said it yourself. But let's talk about another franchise who I personally, any last thoughts anyone wants to get out on the Angels? Just, this insanity right here. Because honestly, one last thought, actually, now that I just thought about. Personally, you're both right. Not Joe Maddon's fault. They do need a better roster. I don't think it's going to take one guy. I think they need to make like several tiny moves, almost like the Atlanta Braves did last year, where you get a couple people who just produce. Nothing crazy. You just need people to put numbers on the board because you don't have that depth. When your top isn't hitting, that's it. It's all downhill. The pitching side, you probably do need at least one more good arm because it's showing now that your pitching in the beginning of the season was fool's gold. But other than that, I'm done with the Angels. Gentlemen, I believe we got to talk about another tragic franchise who I just hope they keep burning down to the ground. I'm sure Jake is along here with me. And that is the other average Joe and Joe Girardi. Binder Joe finally got the boot like I predicted last Thursday. Jake, were you surprised that it happened this soon? Because you seemed pretty sold that, hey, the Phillies, they have all this money spent. They should go for it all. And now, yes, I get it. He may be a scapegoat, but do you think they could also now be sellers due to this?
Well, they're right up against the luxury tax kind of threshold. So I don't think they're going to try to acquire any more money, but they definitely could try to move one of their contracts. I wouldn't consider them sellers. I still think they're going to compete. Like we said last episode, they have a very easy schedule coming up after the All-Star break. I think it's a crazy stretch where they're playing everybody that's under 500. So that's going to be a very time to tell, but when that comes about, it's going to be they're just a very underperforming team. They haven't been built like their bullpen also isn't very good. They're not very good at fielding. They don't have really an everyday center fielder. So I don't know if this was Joe Girardi's fault. I don't think it. I think it was more of an inevitable thing with their falling in the standings.
It feels like it wasn't his fault, but he definitely lost another locker room for sure because it was just the rumors you were hearing, reports coming out, and it's not the first time that Joe Girardi overstayed his welcome. Maybe he just has an old school way of doing things, and like not just in baseball, with every other sport. This new generation, you can't do certain things you used to do with the older generation. You can't be as tough. You can't be that tough yelling military this guy because players are now more open to their life outside of a sport. So they are more looking for a player coach, family friendly guy, something like that. And Joe Girardi is known for being a hard ass. So personally, I let me ask you, Jerk, do you think there really is something in the firing a coach can really get these teams going somewhere? Because I don't really see why you would fire Joe Girardi. Whoever the interim coach is he possibly actually going to do a better job, or just what is the move right now for the Phillies? Because I think they're in a weird area. They're in purgatory where they could be sellers or they could be buyers. Where do you think they are currently?
So before I get to that, I'll just address your point first because I kind of already mentioned it when it came to the Joe Maddon thing. I think in situations, if you do it right, I think hiring a new coach can provide a spark. I mentioned, I know different sport, but I mentioned the Edmonton Oilers before. The Vancouver Canucks nearly made the playoffs this year with the head coaching change that they had during the season. Bruce Boudreau, Barbecue Bruce, as some people call him, got another chance with a team, and he nearly led them into the playoffs after they had no business of being so at the beginning of the season. I think when it comes to baseball, of course, it's a little bit different with it being so long, 162 game season. Still plenty of time to go for both these teams now, the Angels, who we talked about, and now the Phillies. I think it's got to be one of two different things that you do with the firing of a coach and then bringing in somebody new. For a team with playoff aspirations, I think the guy has to be one of two things. Either A, he needs to just be a completely new name and a new voice, and he just brings something different that the locker room just hasn't had within the previous seasons under the old manager / coach. And that's one way to do it. Again, Edmonton was a big thing. Their coaching change was bringing in their former AHL head coach to come in and take the reins, and it really worked from there. Jay Woodcroft really brought a different dimension and a different voice that locker room has really needed for a very long time, especially with its superstars. Or, and you could go what the Phillies did, which is the number two, a name that has meaning to the locker room, that there is a voice there that the players could respect. And that's exactly what they did with their interim manager hire with Rob Thompson staying there. He was actually there when Gabe Kapler was the manager. Joe Girardi wanted to keep him because the two of them have history from their time with the New York Yankees. Thompson working under Girardi, working under Kapler, was also worked under Joe Torre. Rave reviews about him throughout his tenure in the managerial ranks so far. So I'm not surprised that they ultimately went with him, because apparently from everything that I've read so far is that there's still a belief that he can get this team going because the players have the utmost respect for him. Now, will that continue for the last 100 plus games of the season? Let's wait and see here. But I think that is part of the mindset as to why they did this. And I think they're banking on that personally. And hey, respect from the players means a lot. If they lost respect for Joe Girardi and they still hold that, Thompson in high regard, I think that does mean something. If you look at your coach and manager and you hold him in a high regard, that is big for an organization. I think it's one of the underrated aspects we don't talk enough about when it comes to situations like this. Yeah. Now to your second question real fast. My bad, Jake. Should they be buyers or sellers? I think they should. I'm not saying they should be buyers, but I don't think you could be sellers quite yet. They've invested way too much in this roster. And I know there's some high price guys. We're assuming that all these guys could be traded right now and everyone would give up the farm for them. A couple guys, good, but there are some guys on this roster that contracts will not be touched. Who's taking Zach Wheeler's contract? Bryce Harper's contract, he's still a great player, but it's for
hey, I'll take Zach Wheeler's contract. I mean, yeah, give me Zach.
All your pitchers are hurt. All your pitchers are hurt.
Yeah, but I've seen what he could do, man. Let's not be foolish now.
Your pitchers are getting bitten by their own pets, man. You'll take Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, I think they have $246 million tied up between JT Realmuto, Zach Wheeler, Castellanos, and Schwarber through 2024.
So, Jake, let me ask you. Is this winning streak that the Phillies have had? They have won their last 4 games, I believe, since Joe Girardi's firing. Is this more of the firing and them having this little fire that kickstart that Jurg is speaking of, or does this have to do more that they're playing? It was mainly games against the Angels. It was an entire series against the Angels and the Giants. One game against the Giants.
It was a tie. I think it was a little bit of everything. Definitely, I mean, a little more excitement, like Jurek said. He's a very well respected and high regarded guy in the MLB and in that locker room. So that's a really big thing when you want to play for a team where you want to play for a winner and you want to play for a coach that's going to trust you and you trust him. So that's a different aspect. And like I said, we scored 26 runs in the last 3 games. So that's something to know. I know it's a small sample size, but they've been hitting the ball better. But I do think it is partly because the Angels have been playing like the worst team in baseball as of late. So that definitely comes into it. I know they had a crazy kind of walk-off win the other night, which kind of shouldn't have happened because there was a big error in, I think, the 8th inning. But going from there, I don't see them kind of being I guess I kind of see them being contenders. They have a really good roster, like we were saying. I just don't know what they can do kind of to fix their problems that they have right now. And that's kind of the issue with having so much on their books, not having a very strong farm system.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Girardi just didn't have a really good history over the last couple seasons with them. They've been mediocre and very underperforming. And I think there has been something better lately, mainly because I think they just had their center fielder come back. I forget his name, but he got hurt in the last day of spring training. He just came back, and Bryce Harper's been the DH. So Schwarber's been playing in the outfield. So their defense in the corner and the outfields haven't been good. Bohm's had 7 errors already on the season, a third. So I don't think you did enough to kind of make sure this team was solid. So I don't think this 3-game thing is real until they make a serious change.
See, I think they can make a big run. They need to bring more pitching, just like every other league in this, every other team in this league.
Yeah, their bullpen's been abysmal.
When you got Corey Nebel being your closer, man, that's it's an issue. He's literally had, if you look at his stats, his 1 inning of like a 9 ERA, then 1 of 0, then another 1 of 9, then another 1 of like 3. Like that's not what you want to see from your closer at all. But somehow he still gets saves. But regardless, that's more of an opportunity thing. I think if they do make a run, they might be able to squeeze into the last playoff spot just due to the expanded playoffs due to the CBA. The only issue is due their because of their pitching, I see no way they make a deep run. If it's a one and done, if anything, there's no way without pitching. Zach Wheeler is your only pitcher. I said it last episode. Aaron Nola, who is that guy? Zach Eflin, he's hot, he's cold, and then your bullpen is just abysmal. Brad Hand, no longer who he was. You got Familia. Need I say more?
Okay, so I actually have a question for you, James. I personally don't think it's the starting pitching. I do think it's more in the bullpen. Like you said, Corey Nebel, 22 innings pitched, he's got a 3.2 REA. Familia is a 3.7. Nelson has a 4.2. Now, I know Girardi had a rule and kind of a rule they all followed where he wouldn't pitch anybody 3 days in a row. And do you think that will change? And if it does, will it affect their bullpen to pitch better, to give trust, like, you are our guy, go get us our win, go get us this inning? Do you think that will change?
You know, Jurg mentioned a lot about those intangibles, just things that a manager or a coach brings to a locker room. And I think that could definitely change a little something, because that's just something like that. You know, if someone's hot, you got to ride the hot hand no matter what. No, you don't run the guy into the ground, but also something about that where, yes, go get us that save. You're showing confidence as a leader into your player, saying, yes, you could do it. This is your job. No questions asked. You're only not playing unless you're either injured or it's just that's the rule. You can't pitch today. So I think that will make a slight difference. I'm a big fan of those things you don't see on the stat sheet, all the X's, the intangibles, the hard worker, puts his helmet on, brings a lunch pail to practice kind of guys. Things like that, that's, to me, it's a corny saying, but that's a championship caliber stuff, because when you just in anything in life, when you work hard and you do the best you can and you lead by example, or you show your teammates or even your colleagues at work trust, things run smoothly. I'm sure you could agree. When it's a busy night in the kitchen, you got to trust everyone's doing their job. And if it's not working out, some dishes getting messed up. Yes or no?
It's true. So, Jared, what do you think? Do you think it'll make a difference?
Honestly, you mentioning the Joe Girardi pitching rule thing is the first time I really realized like, oh dang, did he have that rule? Like
Binder Joe, man.
He's a
it's
very my
wild.
way or the highway type of coach. And when you're
Mhm.
winning, it's great, but when you're losing, it's hard to justify.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Trust me, we got plenty of those on the ice as well. I mean, I think it could make a difference. Like just like thinking of the fact it's like not pitching more than 3 days in a row. Like kind of like Bar said, and I think in certain situations it's overstated or maybe misinterpreted, but I think managers in baseball really can play a role. And I think like sometimes you do just have to go for the feel of it over numbers and everything else. Like the same sentiment with bars. Like we literally had about a month or so ago at this point. My brain is so scrambled, my timeline might be messed up, but we had the good doctor on it. We talked about not running our athletes into the ground. So I don't want to sound like I want our athletes to get run into the ground here. But at the very same time, this is the professional rank. So now they're actually getting compensated for it. So a little bit of leeway here on this part. um, I think you need to go with the hot hand. You need to go with the guys that are doing it for you. Like, hey, if Knievel ends up having a good stretch here, which it'll take a lot for that to happen, but let's just say he has like within a 7-day stretch, he has 3-4 good appearances. You don't think, oh, is he maybe getting tired? Should we rest him? No, like let him keep going while he's good, because who knows if the next time you give him 2 days rest, he goes out there, he lets up 3 home runs when he's trying to freaking get you the save. Like, just stick with that. It's those little moves that managers can make that it just really shows if they have the pulse of the locker room. And
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think
it's so sorry.
no problem. I think the thing with Thompson is that I think they're trusting him to have seen how it worked with Kapler, to seeing now with Girardi. I think if you're the Phillies to make this change now, I think this is the best possible person to potentially make a difference here. If he can't figure it out, then that's when we talk about in the offseason, should we start seeing changes here? Because if this guy can't do it, he's been there for under 2 managers, 5-6 years now. If he can't figure it out, no one's going to figure it out with this team.
I agree with you completely. And that bringing up the coaching change. And so before, when they hired Girardi, there were 2 other top candidates that they had, and it was Buck Showalter and Dusty Baker. Now, apparently Dusty Baker was blowing kind of the lid off everybody interview-wise during that time. So do you feel like they're kicking themselves now? Or do you think Rod Thomas is the guy? I think he has the trust of the locker room, and I think he's a very well-renowned kind of guy around baseball. So do you think they feel the kind of like, damn, we should have done this? Like, I told you so. Buck Showalter with the Mets, and now Dusty Baker doing so well. Like, do you feel like they feel this way, guys?
Jarek, let me jump in here real quick. I've been said it since when the Mets hired him, even if it wasn't the Mets that hired him, all of the teams in the MLB were going to have egg on their face for having Buck Showalter just out there and not making a single attempt. So I do believe 100% that they're saying, damn, because we're here speaking about trusting your player and are they going to get that, good little kick that they need from this confidence. That's all Buck Showalter is. He follows the analytics, but he follows them to a certain degree. He's not letting them lead his decisions. He's going, okay, this is what you're showing me. The numbers say this, but this guy's been pitching hot for the last week, so I got to keep riding this hand, and that's it. It's just that's how it works sometimes. It's an instinct thing. So I think they are kicking themselves a little bit because even in my personal opinion, you tell me those are the 3 candidates. Unfortunately, he is a World Series winner, but Joe Girardi would be the 3rd and last candidate out of that list of 3 candidates. So I don't get where the decision making came from. Phillies haven't been making too many smart decisions lately. Yeah, I might just be a Mets fan hating, but that's just my personal opinion on it. Jurg, what do you think about the situation?
I mean, not even just that. Forget the other names they could have hired. Just look at the fact that now, this time later, Gabe Kapler takes the reins
Mm-hmm.
and he leads the Giants to the greatest season in
Yep.
franchise history. And he had to follow
Yep.
what was the greatest manager in that franchise's history, who won 3 World Series. And how does he do that? He gets a 100+ win season, and they forced what has been the most talented team of the last decade in baseball to a decisive game 5, I have to say, because it was a divisional series, because damn the MLB playoff setup, and we can't get that the NLCS. But just look at the fact that the guy you fired has made it closer to a World Series ever since. Like, he got a step closer than you have to this point. Forget the guys you could have hired. He got closer. Dusty Baker's been to a World Series. Buck, for the injury stuff that the Mets have had to deal with so far, I think they're doing a very admirable job. Like, yeah, there's a lot of egg on Philly's face, which is why I'm saying, like, right now the clock is ticking here, because if Thompson can't figure this out, I'm not saying he shouldn't get a second crack at the position for next season maybe, but what I am saying is that there should be changes on this team after this year if they can't figure it out, because like your former manager, success. Both the guys you could have hired, success. The guy you went with, you just fired him.
Yeah.
That's not good.
See, the one thing I'll say with Buck is, yes, the Mets did get the signings, but so did Philly. Philly got Nick Castellanos. The thing with Buck really is just, we went from going into the season, I'm sure Jake could agree with me, not to make this a Mets podcast, is my last point about them, but we went into the season going, okay, yeah, we could definitely be playoff contenders. Now we're to a point of the season that you see the big difference that the coaching and a good front office makes, and we're like, wow, we could be contenders this year. So that's just the huge difference, I think, having the right coach and making the right decision could have made for this Phillies team, but unfortunately they didn't make the right one. Jake, sorry, did I interrupt? You have one last point?
Well, I wonder, like, thinking like how we got Billy Epler this year from a team from that was considered abysmal. Like, he was not doing a good job with the Angels, and I know ownership was a big part in that over there in Anaheim. And I wonder if it's the same deal kind of down in Philadelphia. I don't know too much about the situation, but I wonder if it's ownership kind of taking over for the GMs. But it goes really to that point of the front office is needing to be there. And we saw it this year in a competent GM and with ownership willing to spend properly. You saw it on the Mets this year, and you see it on the field. You see the product there, and it's winning baseball. And unfortunately, I don't feel like the Phillies have done that. So we'll see going forward.
Oh, for sure. But after, I'm done talking about these average Joes. We're done. Let's talk about some debatable things right here. So Aaron Judge, what a guy, let me tell you. What a guy. Monster of a man, having an MVP season, just killing it. He's on pace to break the single season home run record. Let's see if he does do it. Not the non-steroid one. Whatever. I take the steroid one. It's all the same, regardless. Aaron Judge rejected his contract this year, which I believe it was 7 years, 213, I want to say. Double check me on that. But regardless, Jake, what do you think of this MVP caliber season that Aaron Judge is having? And where do you think his price tag is right now? Because I have a number in my head, and I think you're going to argue it completely, and I will completely understand it. But I think it's way past the original offer that the Yankees gave him.
Well, I think I agree. I do think it's going to be a quite large offer. He's been great this year, and it's coming at the perfect time, obviously, in the contract year. My thing is looking at a long-term deal, like you've seen the Machado deal, the Harper deal, and Mike Trout deal. It's interesting because this year they're all doing very well, so it looks like these deals are panning out. So do you make Aaron Judge the next $300 million man and keep him in Yankee Stadium, keep him hitting 50 home runs in the short porch? Absolutely. You bet your bottom dollar. You put all your eggs in that basket. And I think he'll be the next $300 million man in the MLB.
Jerg, I'm coming to you for the chaos. This is the number I got in my head. It's a lot closer to 400 million. What do you think? Do you think that is insane? Because hear me out first. Hear me out, Jerg, before you call me crazy.
I was going to say it.
Mike Trout. Yes, he's an Anaheim highest paid player. The man, he does nothing for the media. He doesn't really promote the game. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He's a great guy. But he's not a media darling. He's not, the guy you put on posters. You want him to be that because he should be that because he has been the best player in your sport for the last 10 years, no questions asked. Unfortunately, he's in the lesser Los Angeles team. Yes, it's a major market, but when you're in Anaheim, they call it Anaheim. Let's put it that way. They don't even say Los Angeles. So not only is he really in the major market he should be, but it's just not him. Simple as that. And he hasn't made the playoffs. That's the most major thing right there. Now, when you're looking at Aaron Judge, you were talking about they literally named a section of the stadium after him. After one good year, they said, that's it. This is his section of the stadium. And you got people showing up with Judge wigs, gowns, saying Your Honor, and whatever else they do over there in Yankee Stadium. I don't know. I chill with the bleacher creatures. That's too much for me over there. But My question is, do you think it's outrageous? Because he is, when they extend him, because if they don't, it's insane. I'm almost positive they will. When they extend him, he will be the new captain of the Yankees. It will be handed from Derek Jeter to him. There was some space and time, just like before when it was Don Madeling handed over to Derek Jeter. There is some time gap. Just is very relatable, and he's a media darling. Yes, endorsements. He can make all his money because he's in New York, but I don't care about that if I'm him. I want my money from you. I want my guarantees. Why should I work more outside of my original job just so I can make more money? Because I know damn well if I tell some other team, hey, I'm looking for 400 million, someone's gonna effing pay it. Simple as that. So what do you think, Jerk? Do you think I'm insane? I don't know what the years would be because this team would either want to have to pay up front and a whole crap ton of cash just to try and make it digestible, or they might just spread it out and say, I don't care how he plays when he's 40 something, maybe even do a Bobby Bonilla situation. Who knows? But what do you think about this second crazy conspiracy theory I've been thinking about for so long?
Well, I would just like to say for the record, in Bunsen Bruises history, we have not been wrong before when it comes to certain, dealings happening. This show predicted like a week or two before Max Scherzer got dealt to the Dodgers that he was going to get traded by the Nationals.
Yes.
I would just like to remind the good people.
Trey Turner too. We call Trey Turner.
We said both of those before anybody else. Just saying, we got a little bit of cachet in our guesses here. Now,
does that Jose Barrios too? We say he was going to AL East. We call that.
Yeah. Now, does that mean that we have sources? No, not at all. It just means that we like to apply logic best we can sometimes. And coming from our brains, especially mine, on occasion, I surprise myself. Now, to your point, if Aaron Judge gets 50-plus home runs, if he finishes this season finally getting the AL MVP award that everyone believes that he should have gotten back in 2017, and he was actually finished in top 4 in AL MVP voting last season, then I believe he will get close to $400 million, and he could be the next $400 million man in Major League Baseball. Pretty sure Trout's contract was that, if I'm not mistaken. It's and I've spoken about this again in other sports with other contracts, but it's not just about the play on the field. There are so many other different factors when it comes to stuff like this. It means a lot being the face of the franchise, which, let's be real here, you think of the New York Yankees current core, you think of what that team has been the last half decade. The first name that pops into your mind, whether it be for his massive home runs or the fact that he's even been injured from time to time, is Aaron Judge. Because when you think Yankees, you think Aaron Judge, and you believe the more successful he is, the better it makes that team on a daily basis. That's just an undeniable fact. When your best players are your best players, your team's going to be pretty good. There is the fact that, you say it himself, he is like one of the few guys in Major League Baseball where it's like the casual fan might be able to recognize him. That a guy that maybe doesn't know a lot of baseball will look at him and think Aaron Judge.
He's 6'7". There's no way you can't recognize him. That buck tooth, just like Michael Strahan too. Oh, he fixed that actually, so never mind.
Yes, but
isn't he the tallest position player ever?
He has to be. There's
I think
no
so.
way.
Pretty sure.
Dude, one of our friends, Jake, one of our friends met him, and he took a picture of him. Zach is an average dude, 5'8", I'd say. He never looked smaller in my life, let me tell you. It was literally, Aaron Judge could have just grabbed his head and picked him up. It was ridiculous in this picture. But
he's a big dude.
No, yeah. So it's just it's all these different factors that go into having to get a guy. And I think one of the things, like you said, Bars, is that depending on what other teams could potentially offer him money, like the Yankees will have to go above and beyond. That is just how it works. Let me give you a different situation. Not with a specific player, but just hypothetically. Are you going to take $150 million to play in New York, or are you going to take $120 million to play in Florida or Texas?
Either one, because taxes. So I'd make a lot more money in Florida or Texas.
That's what I'm saying. That stuff matters.
And it's hot all
warm weather,
all that. And at the end of the day, let's be real here, and this show has definitely harped on this before. The fact that Aaron Judge, that there was no way, shape, or form that he could have immediately tested free agency, at least after 2018 when he was still once again an all-star, is just one of the travesties of Major League Baseball's system and how they bring up their guys and how long it takes for them to reach free agency. We're talking about this guy's not going to be able to reach free agency until after his age 30 season. That's just a disgrace. And so the fact that we've had to wait this long to talk about him being paid is absolutely stupid. So teams should not, I don't think Major League teams should have the right to debate on if he should get paid like this, because let's be real here, he should have gotten paid 5 years ago. So
Correct.
I firmly believe he deserves his money. I firmly believe he will get his money. And if he finishes this season off, and if the right team makes the right offer, and it might be the Yankees, and it probably should be, because let's be real here, there are a lot of guys on that team are pretty disappointing. And Aaron Judge being there this season, you felt the impact. It's helped make a difference. Like Aaron Judge could be Major League Baseball's $400 million man, and that it's just a matter of fact. I don't think it's crazy.
You were right. Mike Trout, 12 years, 426,005,000. So, Jake, you seem to be the logical one here. You like, staying a little more grounded, not feeling, swinging for the fences, as some would say. What do you think about this, dear? Because honestly, yes, when Mike Trout signed that contract, he was 27 going on to 28. That contract ends when he's 38. But I mean, with the way that Mike Trout gets hurt, he gets hurt just as often as Aaron Judge. And let's be honest, it's broken hand here, hamstring there, something with his shin here. That's the same thing as Aaron Judge, but that's also because Mike Trout's kind of a bigger, stocky guy as well. Not 6'7", but still, both outfielders throwing themselves out there. Aaron Judge is 30 compared to Mike Trout's 28. So, do you think Mike Trout's currently making, I think it adds up to $35 million per year? Do you think, let's say, 400? Let's just put 410 years right there, flat. Do you think that's an outrageous number for a player like Aaron Judge?
I don't think it's outrageous. I don't know how many teams are willing to pay it, especially when you see teams like making deals with a Fernando Tatis or Vladimir or a Wander Franco, that they're trying to get these deals younger. Because when you see like a deal like Robinson Cano, this long-term deal, and then you saw how it play out the Mets, where they're going to pay him this year for no reason, that's kind of the issues. My problem is right now is Mike Trout has always been considered probably the best baseball generational talent that we have. Aaron Judge has never been considered that, will never be considered that. So is he, I mean, saying that to you, is he worth that $400 million?
I like the way you phrased that, but at the same time, Aaron Judge, he may not be an overall generational talent, but what he does at the plate is undeniable. That's generational talent right there. And as I said, when you're going for this money, if you're going to New York and you're getting this money, it's going to be more looking towards the business side of things. And like I said, if Aaron Judge leaves, that's almost a giant, that's basically your organization almost there, because what happens if Aaron Judge leaves New York? And I like how you mentioned about the younger players getting these deals. For example, Yordan Alvarez. I've texted both of you when that deal happened. Let me pull that contract up right now. It was like 7 years, 165, 6 years, 115, even better of a deal. So yes, you're correct. It's tough. You want to sign these young bargain deals, but at the same time, this is a homegrown guy who the only reason you're talking about giving a contract in his 30th age year is, as Jerk said, you've let it gone this long.
Yeah.
You kicked the can down the road.
They could have done the Yordan Alvarez.
Exactly.
Like,
you could have just offered a contract, but no, you decided, hey, let's ride this baby bombers thing and see where it goes. And you didn't spend the money adequately. Simple as that. Yes, you got Garrett Cole, but that was a move you should have pulled the trigger on years before you even did that with other talents and other arms. So that's where I'm saying I think he's also not only making money. Yes, those later years are going to be hurting, but that's money that he's been due, because let's be all honest, even when a player wins arbitration, they're still not making the proper amount of money they should be making.
And also, Jake, I know I don't mean to cut you off here, but like when you mentioned those young guys, like that is fully a organization based thing. Like it should be criminal. The Atlanta Braves should be charged on criminal charges for the fact that Ronald Acuna is going to be paid less than $30 million for the next however many years of his career. That is one of the best players in baseball today. And they just took advantage of the fact that, like, for a lot of these guys, they come up in these conditions, they come up in these circumstances where they don't, like, God forbid an injury happens to Acuna and he did actually get hurt. Like who knows? And that's the thing where it's like, danged if you do, danged if you don't, if you're the athlete. And then you have all these people on social media that clown them all this time later, where we don't look at the team first. We don't look at the structure of Major League Baseball first. I understand your point. And I think in a lot of cases it is the case, but Barza said himself, like, the Yankees could have done this. They could have extended him like the Rays just did Wander Franco. They could have extended him like the Braves did with Acuna all those years back, or the Astros just did with Yordan Alvarez. They could have done that, but they just chose not to. And like, when you make mistakes, when you make the mistake and you're looking around as if why is this happening? It's you. There's nobody else. You can't blame the Mets. You can't blame the Red Sox. You can't blame anybody else. Yankees, this is you. You are the reason. If he leaves, that's on you. You could have extended him a lot earlier in his career if they had extended him after his age 25 season. Yes, it's only one good season, but he's going on 26 years old. Not, this is his fourth amazing season, but he's going on 31. That is on you as the organization for not doing this before. So if they do lose him, Yankees are full to blame.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's hard for me to justify $400 million to Aaron Judge. And like we said, all these, even Brian Hayes got the biggest deal from the Pirates ever earlier in this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I definitely see, like you said, the shape of the MLB landscape more leaning towards those deals, and it's definitely organizational based. I don't understand why they didn't do it at the time. A little behind the times there.
They're trying to save money. That's what it is, man.
It's just hard to justify signing with somebody at a 10-year, 8-year deal when they're going to be 38, 40 at the end of it. I like what the Mets did with a 3-year deal to Max Scherzer. Is obviously a lot older. And I think that kind of makes more sense. I would see a 6-year deal would be kind of the perfect fit for the Yankees. Maybe not obviously Judge, who wants as many years as possible. But a 6-year deal kind of making the same kind of annual revenue would be, I think, kind of in line for both of them. And I think a little more realistic.
Just to counter Jerg's point, and actually my point a little. Yes, these youngins, they take that, not even counter, to amplify it a bit. Yes, these other organizations, it's not only an organization or thing. These players who are budding superstars, if you look at it, the ones who are taking the deals, as we said, they come from a lesser means. They come from certain third world countries, where you look at Fernando Tatis. Yes, he's a rising star. He's Fernando Tatis Jr., in case some people forgot. Fernando Tatis Sr., he made a bunch of money. So let's be honest. Fernando Tatis, his uprising wasn't too tough. Actually, fun fact, I didn't know this. Aaron Judge was adopted, so his upbringing might have been, not familiar with his life story. Might have been rough, but from what I've read, seems like he had 2 loving parents who adopted him. So he had some means as well. He's not coming from a lesser means. So
he was also bars a 3-sport athlete in high school. The kid's been athletically gifted. He has been athletically gifted his whole life. Had he been, I forget what the other 2 sports were. I'm assuming one of them was basketball. Had he gone and tried to become a professional NBA player, and let's just assume he makes the NBA, he would have gotten paid a good chunk of money already. I don't know what the 3rd sport was off the top of my head, but
basketball and football. He was recruited to be tight end in Notre Dame, Stanford, and UCLA.
Imagine he would be with, at least physically, like Kittle, like Darren Waller, like Travis Kelce. And if he lives
bigger than them.
But what I'm saying, of that archetype, bigger than everyone, athletic as hell. And if he has the off the field financial means of Travis Kelce, which, a king right there, then at the end of the day, he would have gotten his money. He picked the sport, and of course he loves the sport. And I'm not saying that I don't want guys to become baseball players. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is that this sport is just, it's not in the favor of the young players to get to be able to maximize themselves. It's in the hands of the organization, and I absolutely hate that. If there's one thing I'm thankful for over the last decade of leagues changing, it's player empowerment. In certain cases, it's a little bit too much, but I like the fact when the players could get paid as much as they can, because these guys have a very short window. We don't always realize it, but the average major career for all professional leagues is 3-4 years, and who knows when it's over.
I think this opens up kind of even another discussion of them earlier in the year trying to eliminate the international pool. Mm-hmm. They're trying to eliminate the international free agent pool, put them in the draft, so they wouldn't get these giant signing bonuses. Which for a lot of these kids, a lot of these young kids, they don't come. They come from just a poorer background or a lesser demographic in terms of revenue. But that would kind of detour and really hurt that kind of market for them, because Fernando Tatis and a lot of players were outspoken about it by not switching, keeping the free agent pool, which I agree with. I think the players should be able to make money right away. That's the point of it,
For sure. And like Jerk said, we never know when it's going to be over, but unfortunately it's over. But one last fun fact, guys. In 2010, in the 31st round of the MLB draft, the Oakland Athletics selected Aaron Judge. But then he made the smartest decision of his life and opted to enroll into the California State University. And the rest is history. So with that fact, take it all in, folks. Jerk, thank you for coming once again, brother. It was great having you. It's been a minute. Anything you want to tell the folks before you leave?
Well, as you guys always know, I'm always available here on Buns and Bruises whenever my schedule permits. I love coming on. But if you're always on the Buns and Bruises YouTube channel, what you can do is pop up on Saturday or Sunday on a weekly basis and catch the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. It was a podcast that was literally just built off a text conversation between two close friends and coworkers of mine from my old job. We were like, hey, we always talk football. Let's just do a podcast. And it's like, yeah, why not? Let's just do it. So it literally just spawned off of that randomly one day. And it's been so much fun. Me, Rick, and Justin do that every weekend. And of course, on a weekly basis, you can catch me with the Somewhat Sports podcast with two other amazing guys, Chris and Dame, which I want to get Dame back on here at some point and talk baseball. I think it would be just another mind for baseball would be a fun time, but that's for future episodes. That's for down the line, more fun then. But yeah, I'm always happy to be on, and I'm happy to bring some hockey back in the show. The Bruises have to come back this week, so that was my goal, and I did that. Look at that.
Whoa. In my defense, I mentioned hockey the last episode or two. You guys, Jake, I made references. I said go Rangers too. So, I was killing it here on the ice side.
There's the hockey reference.
Let's do that hockey, baby. Other than that, folks, catch us on Thursday. There's some spicy NFL news going on as well. It's been crazy the past couple of weeks. We got off seasons turning into regular seasons. We got regular seasons starting to get to the thick of it, where it's going to the postseason, and we got the Stanley Cup final coming up as well. I almost messed up. And the NBA finals. Oh, man, it's just so much going on. But until next time, folks, you have a great night.